So you'll have to forgive me because I'm allergic to PowerPoint. So I'm just going to run stuff off my laptop. Just very briefly, who we are, Ninja Theories. Our first game was Kung Fu Chaos, which was an Xbox exclusive, and then heavily sourced. And this is our first multi-platform title, Enslaved. And I'll just run this trailer, just in case anyone doesn't know what the game is about.
Maybe 16.
What is this place?
This sweet home. There is strike that with me.
Epic journey through rugged terrain, facing savage machines.
Why do they care for us?
Fighting an impossible odds.
That's out next Friday. And we got an 18 Eurogamer, thankfully. So it's not bad. Okay, so I want to show you just a whole bunch of stuff that, it took 2.5 years to make a game, and we produced a whole bunch of materials that are never meant to be seen by the public or outside our studio. And I thought it'd be good to just show you some stuff about it. So the game is actually based on Journey to the West, which most of us know through watching the TV series. It's 400 years old. Sorry, it's been adapted many times, and we just. It feels like a funny road movie, and what we wanted to do was to create that kind of buddy movie vibe with these two characters and go as deep as possible into the relationship between these characters in a way that games haven't really done before. I mean, there's games like Ico or Another World that you meet where you've got your two characters working together, but we wanted to go really deep into the drama on this game. And one of the first things we do when we come up with a concept is we do a rippomatic, which is to get together a whole bunch of different trailers from movies, whatever, artwork, and just cobble together a trailer. It only takes like 2 or 3 days to do, but it gives us an idea of what the move we're trying to do. So this is probably 3 years, 2.5 or 3 years old now. back then it was actually called Monkey Journey to the West, so we couldn't keep that name for trademark and copyright for reasons. And so that pretty much covers the basic premise of the game we're trying to do, which is something very cinematic with two believable characters, story-driven, man versus machine, robots of all kinds of sizes, and things like action sequences where you get to use robots against each other. And then about 2 months, or 2.5 months after that, the thing we typically do is to visualize the game. So we create a CG trailer, so the entire art team was working for 2.5 months on the CG trailer, just to give a feel for what this game is going to look like. Because when you're an independent studio, you have to basically go out and pitch. You've got to go on the road and try and convince someone to give you a lot of money to make the game. So the better you can make your trailer, the more likely you are to actually get signed up. And bear in mind actually that this is a team that hasn't done CG trailers before, so we are actually quite proud of doing this in such a short time.
Listen to me carefully, monkey. Your life depends on what I have to say. That headband you're wearing is charged with explosives. If you attempt to remove it, if you abandon me, if you let me die, your head will explode. You will have to obey me. If you do, I can cause you excruciating pain. Only you know that murder has now become your dream. Okay, so once we got the concept, what we... Oh, no. There you go. Okay, once we got the concept, what we do is we do a lot of art. And you'll notice in the trailer that the characters are different from the game. So this is just showing some of the progression of the concept art from the original kind of techno monkey to a more white gorilla monkey based on the gorilla in Barcelona 2, actually. Finally settling for the character we have in the game. And then Trip as well, the evolution of Trip, where she starts off, she was much more kind of tango-ish, kind of weird, gothy type. Actually, with this one's quite funny, because when we did the casting for the character, we sent out this image to the casting agent. And there was like 30 or 40 girls that turned up for the casting session, and they all dressed up as this character. I couldn't, like, I was so confused why everyone was just dressed so weirdly. And then the final character we had got much softer than the previous version. And then comes the next. So this one's the Rhino, which is made in the game, the Berserker. This is the Dragonfly. So most of these concepts are actually done by one person, Alex, and he, our art director. And a lot of our concept art is kind of very evocative. It's not, you know, and often you get kind of front side views of characters and people model. At our studio, we kind of prefer to kind of create art that has a lot of light, color, movement, and then just kind of is more evocative. And then it's down to the artist, the 3D artist, to model it and try and get across that feel. So I think there's some really, really beautiful art in there. Okay. Now, the next thing we do, once we've got the trailer and we've got some artwork and we've got the design kind of fleshed out, on the outside we do art style tests, which is basically in-engine. I mean, we just got hold of Unreal Engine for the first time, and we have never used it before. And the big worry with Unreal is that everything you do turns out grey and brown. So we did some art style tests to see where we push it using colours, lighting, also using kind of grading. So this location is based on Radio City Music Hall in New York. Collision, gameplay, all that kind of stuff. They just try and get the mood, the atmosphere, the tone of the art right. Then when we build the levels, we base it on these kind of condensed art style tests. So another one here is the graveyard. It's where the last big battle of mechs happens, so it's just a junkyard really. So how do you make a junkyard look not grey and brown? And on the other side, on the game, more towards the gameplay side, on the animation side, we do start tests for the characters as well, because it's almost like a casting session. We want to define how these characters look and feel. So for Monkey, unlike Nariko from Heavenly Sword, he's got to be rough and brute. He's not gone to a martial arts training course. He's learned to fight to himself. So we try to capture that in his movement. And then another character, just to give you another example, is Dixie, who's meant to be more, well, he's more of a fun character. Now on the music side, we've got Mr. Story here, who's an amazing composer. Done lots of films, games. Well, actually, the first game he did was Heavenly Sword, and he's back on Enslaved. And actually, I was going to show a bit of a making of. I'm kind of running short on time, so I'll skip to the sound effects, which we don't hear too much about in games, you know. But I really think that part of the reason when you're playing the game, you feel like you're in the real world with the sound design. And we use a studio called Play It By Ear, or a New York-based Foley studio. So most of the sounds in the game are actually sourced from real Foley. And our sound design is mixed in it. So it's just to get an idea of what Foley is. It's basically people doing this all day long. And then on the kind of more atmospheric side, go out into the forest and record everything, all the sound.
So now the M4 Super 9 semi-auto 12-gauge shotgun.
Well done for shooting a bomb. And so when it all gets mixed together and the sound design comes together, it really brings like the world and the characters to life. So I'll show you the doll, which is one of the mechs in the game. This is a sound design set, basically. And if you watch that without sound, it's just totally different. The sound is basically emotional, whereas visual stuff is mostly intellectual. So sound design is just an incredible thing, even though it's in the background. So on the performance capture side, we've got Andy Sless returning, who co-directed the motion capture with me. You know, I believe he's one of the finest character actors of our day. He's not just Donald and King Kong. If anyone's seen Sex, Drugs and Rock and Roll, it's pretty remarkable. And he originally introduced us to Weta, which is where we got where we learned the ropes of facial technology and things. So I'll just skip a few things. Okay. So one of the things we did on Enslaved was the reason why it's so difficult to get characters that feel real in games is you know, the uncanny valley problem. It's to do with the solving of the face. You know, the characters, the actors are on set with all these spots all over the face, and captured by over 100 cameras around them. How do you translate those spots into something that feels real, with wrinkles, so that you can see the muscle, the skin rolling over the muscle when they express? And part of the key to that is a piece of technology called a solver, facial solver, and we invested quite a lot of time and R&D into a facial solver, which Stuart Adcock is here. You can bother him later and ask questions if you want. Put your hand up. There you go. Just this. And so what you see here is on the top left is the on-set Andy, and then in the middle of the screen you'll see the PC Andy, which is based upon the restrictions of the game. Now, we've got to say nonsense because it's just about finding out shapes.
This heater gives out nothing compared to the warmth you get from my gas fire. I want each person here to give George their report by Thursday afternoon. one by Thursday afternoon. They were still. They were still fresh by customs, though they had nothing to declare.
So you'll see the wrinkle, like,
I was written by the name.
the dots basically drive the model system. I'll just turn that down a bit. Okay. The dots drive the model system, which is the simulation that we have in the game, and the wrinkle maps. The things that don't move in here are the eyes. They have to be hand animated afterwards. And with all of our performance capture, you still lose a little bit, like the solve is never perfect, so it does take a few animations to go over every scene and just touch it up. So I'll show you one of the scenes in action. This is where it's just a bit of context. This is halfway through the game. Dixie's got a thing for trip and wants to make a move, and he's basically asking monkey for permission. So this is Andy Circus, Richard Riding, and Lindsay Shaw. We might need quite a bit of volume on this.
You a trip, you know, that means trip a lot, you know, me together. Trip, enslaved me. And if I don't do what she says, she causes me a lot of pain. And if I still don't do what she says, she kills me. All right. It's not so the friends and much into the circle trip, you know. But if something were between you, I respect that. I'm not going to go for so many. She can't hear every word we say. But if you want to take the chance, go ahead. Okay. That's right. You grew up so fast. You get older already, and maybe I was thinking you might be glad, you know. I'll work out for you. Let's go. We'll start again.
With this game, we had a lot more confidence that what the actors were doing on set would come across in the actual in-game. Whereas on Heavenly Schools, we never tackled the technology, so we shot all the scenes a year before we actually got them in game. And we had a much more exaggerated style, much more theatrical style. But for this game, we went for a much more subtle style, really. And then, finally, story. So I mentioned Alex Garland. He's not here, is he? So Alex Garland, he co-wrote the story with us, and he's a massive gamer. He was actually looking for an opportunity to work in games, and so when we met, I had no idea. I had no idea that someone of his caliber would want to work in games, and I worked out that he was a massive gamer. We basically, we didn't know how to work, actually, because he never worked in games, and I never worked with a screenwriter of his caliber. So we just agreed to figure things out as we went along. And we did. He spent the first maybe 2 or 3 months just coming into the office once a week, all day long, sitting down with our designers and writing a first draft of the script, but also going over the level design plans that we had, just figuring out where he could put in the story beats, because as everyone here is well aware, story is something that has to pervade the entire of the level. It's not something you just restrict to cutscenes, which I think Heavenly Schools could be accused of doing. The story is something that needs to pervade every part of the level design. So the first thing he did was he just came up with a story synopsis, which is just a few pages long. The characters, And then over the course of 3 months or so, he came up with a script. I was quite surprised by the script. I was surprised because it seemed so simple. How do I zoom in on that? It seems so deceptively simple. So in this scene, Monkey grabs a dragonfly, this robotic CCTV camera portrait, and hands it over to her. She says, "Oh, I used to play this all the time. I think it's you guys used to watch it." And she explains what it's all about. There, now it's up to the library later. So it seems like very, very, on the page, it doesn't seem that remarkable. What Alex understood was that in a screenplay, it's actually more about what's left unsaid. And the direction for this scene was that this is one of the first times that Monkey, Trip, tries to gain trust with Monkey and shows that she's got something to offer. And Monkey kind of gets that. So a lot of the scenes are about what's not said. And we can do that because we can rely on the actor's performance. When you can't rely on the actor's performance, and you can't rely on the facial expressions in the game, you have to fall down the route of exposition, which is why, game narratives feel so, I don't know, they just don't seem to be as deep or sophisticated as movies.
The dragonflies all the time as a kid.
No, it's squashing.
They all use simple sensors to help them flip out energy sources. It's pretty basic, but for our purposes, it's a good trick. Keep still. There. This now set up to send a live relay to your headband. I have the camera setting and the sensor setting.
So,
Try it out.
And the game is full of kind of little scenes like that don't seem to have any purpose, but strung together, they basically build a relationship between Monkey and Trip. Okay. And, so another thing, let's see if we have time for this. Yeah, okay, I think we've got time. Okay, so another thing we did was edit. So we spent, I spent, how long was it? About 5 weeks with an editor, a movie editor, professional movie editor, just trying to get the scenes down and trying to get them simplified. And both Andy and Alex reviewed the scenes with me. And the thing that Alex impressed on me more than anything else was that one scene, one purpose. Every scene should have one clear purpose, and clarity is the ultimate objective. So if you look at a scene, that seems innocuous. Basically, Monkey and Trip are being stalked by this dog, and they're trying to get across this body of water, and Monkey figures out that he can use a power cell to power his cloud. So this is the original edit.
How are we going to get through that?
slowly.
It'll take forever. How big we've got forever.
Okay, plan B, human power cell.
The power cell? But I was going to take that right to my village. A cell this size to provide energy. What's that?
It's a cloud.
It doesn't look like a cloud. Well, maybe a little with the cloud.
I'll be right back.
So we got rid of, like, there was just too many things going on. There's a dog, there's a power cell, there's a cloud. It just feels like it's going on and on. So we simplified it back down to this. Get rid of the power cell, got rid of the dog.
Okay. Now, how are we going to get across? The cloud right here.
What's that?
It's a cloud.
It doesn't look like a cloud. Well, maybe a little with the cloud.
Okay.
Okay.
So now, how are we going to get...
Okay. So it seems like we did that to every single thing, just boiled it down to just one single message. And that seems to work. That seems to draw you in more. It seems to not take you out of the game stage experience as much as you like. Okay, so outside of the cutscenes, one of the things we did, Alex came, after he finished the script, he could have walked away from the project, and he didn't. He came back again and again to watch the scenes play out, the levels, see the early levels, and see how they work. And very quickly he started to kind of give feedback. So one of the things, for example, that he said, small things, like things that maybe as game developers you kind of you overlook, like when they first landed Grand Central, he said, why is Trip standing the way she is? Because her idol pose is something, like this. And he's going, why is she standing like that? She's supposed to be frightened. And we said, well, that's her idol pose. And he goes, yeah, but if I was the director, I would ask her to stand differently. She needs to look more confident. And so we did. We changed her idol pose, her animation throughout the game. And maybe this is subconscious, because if it's not overly, you won't necessarily notice it while you play it, but you'll notice it if it's wrong. Her actual body language changes throughout the game. But also in Grand Central, there was a section where there's a drawbridge. The drawbridge is stuck, and once he goes across the other side and wakes up some robots and fights. And I said, why is there a drawbridge there? And this is kind of like the danger of not involving writing at the early stage of the design. Because why is there a drawbridge? And it's basically because our designers thought it would be good to put a little obstacle there and put a drawbridge in. And so I said, well, I don't know, maybe Grand Central was, like a place where they try to hold themselves up and stop the mechs from coming in. He goes, yes, but you're not showing that. You're not showing any signs, you're not taking the camera away and showing that. And then there's a fight. He said, you jump on the other side, these robots wake up and you fight, because there's no tension. What you should do, so we start taking notes, is like, what you should do is have a sound play. Like, don't be scared of taking the camera away. Have a sound play when you approach it. You hear something. Then talk about it. You get closer. You see a shadow move. And then when you finally kind of attract attention of the mechs, have them not spawn right next to you. Have them coming in from far away. Hear them screaming as they're coming. And wait a few seconds so you don't know where you're supposed to look. So you build tension. So I'll show it. It's not a perfect example, but I'll show the video of that section anyway.
I think it's supposed to be average.
Must be a key back sound.
There are some controls here. Which side is blocked? Can you get around and clear it? Be careful.
And even in the combat, we're using, we got a cinematographer to teach us the basic principles of filmmaking and editing. And we're constantly doing that in gameplay. And I think when you're actually playing the game, you don't really kind of get bothered by it. It seems like if you do pick a moment and you cut at the right point, as a player, it just seems to flow. It doesn't seem to bother you. So that was a bit of a revelation. And so from then on, I went through the entire game several times over, actually. Each kind of task took about 2 or 3 weeks. Just doing exactly the same thing that we did in that test area, which is basically setting up, in debug, flying the camera around, saying, put the camera here, take a screenshot, cut to there, transition to there, and then giving voice VO lines as well, just to clarify everything. And did that basically for the entirety of the game. And once we did that, did it again, just kept refining it. So, the other thing is, like, during the gameplay, we wanted the characters to talk a lot. A lot of the exposition about the gameplay happens during gameplay, not in the cutscenes. I mean, it's a pet peeve of mine that a lot of games focus on boring gameplay tasks, like the shopping list of things you've got to do in the cutscenes, whereas I think cutscenes should be about close-ups and super amazing wide shots and more about the drama and the characters. So during the gameplay, we introduced a lot of VO, which our designers have been, so just to get a feel for it. Then we bring Alex in later on to kind of look at it, review it, rewrite it. And we use the robot voice so that when the actors were in the voice recording booth, they hear the robot voice and they see the subtitles and they know the context of the line, and then they can just kind of play over that. And we used the robot voice because we didn't want the actors to have to get an impression from say if I did the line or Stu or whoever did the line, it would be in a certain tone and the actors would be influenced by it. I realise we've got a couple of minutes.
Mom, down this way, let's keep going. Once we touch the water, the next week over the years and make the water toxic.
What are we doing in this place? There's mess everywhere.
If we are going to follow the slave ship, we need one ourselves. I know someone who can help us.
Someone is a flying ship.
So you get,
Yes, and all the
so you get the idea, even though the dialogue, it's pretty rubbish. As long as there's stuff in there, as long as you get that stuff in there early on, just to kind of like block it out, then you can review it and do the voice recording session. So in the last couple of minutes, I want to show just an example of what we did in the voice over sessions. All right, let me just write. Because it's fine doing the cutscenes and spending all the effort there, but if you don't put that same effort in the actual in-game video, you just ruin the consistency. Hang on. Got a short clip.
Excellent. They're over.
Looks like the first act of holding down these tunnels. Now I need you with me, monkey. Get up here.
Please.
Look, you're right up. I'm coding the dragonfly to lead the way. All you have to do is follow it.
Sure. Usually in a video session, you've got an actor and they're going to be just here, and the microphone's just there, and they're going to direct their voice at the mic. They can't move around. We decided to use the same microphones that we used on stage, but I also have a really nice effect of freeing the actors, so we have them all with head mics like they had in the microphone session. And just means they're free to jump about, lie on the floor, roll around, and they live, without thinking. They just do all of the things that the characters are doing in the game while they're delivering lines. It just gives so much life to the performance.
Whoa! Let me get down with the security system.
Sounds like we're going to have a bit of that action here pretty soon.
Look, I think there's a lot of parallels between
Yeah, that's what So that's basically it. I mean, I've tried to cover, I'm just only giving the kind of like the tip of the iceberg, but I've tried to cover as many different areas to show you what goes in, you know, behind the production of a game like Enslaved. So I purposely didn't cover a gameplay slide because the game is out next Friday, and it's on the show floor, so, you know, you'll be able to get your hands on and see how it all comes together. Now, I don't think we have time for questions, so thank you very much.